wanting to be wanted. It's something that's true for all human beings. And today, I want to talk a little bit about the science. In 1958, when I had my tonsils out, the thing that I remember most is the fact that I didn't see my parents. They were gone. That's because in those days, we believed somehow that children were overly attached to their parents, and when they were in the hospital, we needed to work at helping them detach and individuate from parents. Then in 1965, thankfully, a psychiatrist named John Bowlby began to conduct research that shows that children got better much faster whenever they had contact with their kids, or with their parents. And the thing that was interesting about that, it was such a radical concept to the medical community that some people even accused Bowlby of falsifying the evidence. Now today, if you only went to see your kids for 1 hour when they're in the hospital a day, I suspect CPS would be called, because we've learned that attachment is really important. And then by 1995, the people that followed Bowlby were able to show that that attachment is every bit as important to adults. I mean, have you ever noticed, for instance, when you walk out of a room from an infant or a 12-month-old or 18-month-old, how they begin to pitch a fit? That's because they're experiencing what we call attachment distress. At that moment, it's like part of them is leaving the room. The relational air is leaving and being sucked out, and so they go into this primal panic. But you've probably also noticed that in your relationship, if your mate rolls their eyes or if they have a tone of voice, that you also may feel that primal panic and immediately, go off on them, trying to get them to reconnect back with you. Because at the core of human beings, we want to know that we really matter to somebody, that they care about us, that they want to be with us, that they choose us, that they love us. And that relationship, that attachment, is every bit as important as air and water. The worst punishment you can give a human being is solitary confinement. We will eventually go insane and die, which is partly why infidelity has created such an issue for you guys watching this, simply because it is a rupture of that primary attachment, and you feel that distress. It's a violation of human connection. But as couples, oftentimes are already dealing with issues of attachment long before infidelity occurs, and like this slow chipping away where it feels like the other person doesn't care, or maybe we don't matter to them. Not that that causes the infidelity, but I'll tell you, one of the things that we want for you isn't just to be able to get over what happened with the infidelity, to get you out of, all of the pain and the turmoil and the trauma that's associated with that, but it's to also help you find an extraordinary life. And I think beginning to look at attachment will be important, because probably how you were doing things in the past, that's not the best you can do. And going forward, as you rebuild a new relationship, you're going to want to do it better, because we all want that attachment. Not only do we want it, we just don't want to be wanted. We all need to be attached. Scientists say there are 3 primary attachment styles. And as we go through this, perhaps you can see where you and your mate have been previous to the infidelity, or maybe where you're at now. The first attachment style they actually call secure attachment. Roughly 60% of our population are in that category, and they feel comfortable with intimacy and are usually warm and loving. But the second attachment style is actually called anxious, and about 20% of the population fall into that category. And for those people, they actually crave intimacy, and they're often preoccupied with their relationships and tend to worry about their partner's ability to love them back. And it explains why some people really become clingy if they feel like their mate isn't really connected with them, or why they become so preoccupied that it interferes with work and They almost feel needy, and that anxious style makes it difficult for them to feel secure. The third attachment style is called avoidant, and roughly 25% of the population fall into that category. And those people kind of equate intimacy with a loss of independence and are constantly trying to minimize closeness. Research actually explains that though they want to be close, that avoidant feels compelled to push away, not because they aren't into their mate, don't love them, not because they think their mate's not good enough for them or whatever, but they actually begin to push away in that avoidant style because they feel the closeness and intimacy are increasing. It's like this reflexive response, and it's like, it scares them, and so they'll maybe pick fights or do things to kind of push the relationship away. The good news is attachment styles can change. These are things that I promise you brought into the relationship. A lot of attachment work is actually based on infants with their mothers. And early on in life, babies will have either secure, anxious, or avoidant attachment styles. Oh, by the way, I left off about 5% there. That's called disorganized. And that's just a small number. Most people don't have that. They're both kind of avoidant and anxious. They go back and forth. But the good news is people can change. 1 in 4 people tend to change attachment styles and move closer to that secure attachment style. We now call it earned secure if they moved from avoidant or anxious on their own without any knowledge of this. But what's cool is that if you have knowledge, now that we know about attachment styles, you'd be able to actually do work to change that avoidant style, that anxiousness that perhaps you get when things get too close. Or if you're feeling anxious because you don't have the relationship and you've got that anxious attachment style, that can change. And our goal for you isn't just to recover, it's not just to survive, but it's really to thrive. Because I want you to have something so much better than you ever had before. So consider the possibility that maybe you or your mate had an anxious or avoidant attachment style. And if so, consider doing the work to get to that earned, secure place where both of you can feel more comfortable in that space together. To healing.